Hello everyone, it's Silvia. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to have a look at my latest tarot and oracle decks haul, and based on that I'm going to give you 5 predictions for the tarot and oracle trends to watch in 2025. Let's do this. So a couple of decks that just entered my collection are these two. These are the pocket editions of 2 oracle decks that we know and we have known for quite a while. And I'm talking about the Wisdom of the Oracle Pocket Edition Divination cards by Colette Baron Reid. This is by Hay House and it comes like this, so it is still a 2-part box, which is very similar to the fuller size. And then another Colette Baron Reid's deck, but this is the Spirit Animal Pocket Oracle. So as you can see, they both author, obviously creator, and also named Pocket, or rather pocket size, because we will notice that there's a number of companies of publishers that are also jumping onto the bandwagon of the mini decks, but they call them in a different way. So it looks like Hay House is going for the word pocket, which is absolutely fine. But this is slightly different because this one actually comes in a tin. Now, I don't necessarily know why they would choose to go with a 2-part box like this one for one deck and a tin can for another deck, especially because it is the same author. It doesn't matter. In any case, something that really jumps to my attention, and it has for a while, is that one prediction, and my prediction number 1 officially, for tarot and oracle decks trends in 2025 is an abundance of mini decks. There will be a lot of publishers going for the mini, the pocket, the tin edition, whatever they want to call it, but they will definitely focus on that. And more often than not, you will see that it will not just be about decks that have been released previously in previous years in a full-size edition. It will be for new decks as well. But for now, let's have a look at these two. So I'm going to focus on this one now. Let me just zoom in, because obviously when it comes to mini decks, we obviously refer to a smaller size. These are taking the world by storm. I absolutely am on board with this 10, and it is something that I actually welcome and look forward to. I said in a previous video that I think I'm going to slowly replace all of my full-size decks with their mini edition. And this is in spite of my eyesight. Obviously, when it comes to a tarot deck and also an oracle deck, I would definitely want to see more of the card and the design in order to be able to appreciate it more. By the way, yes, I am struggling with opening this thing. I don't know why. Maybe the measurements have... There you go. I finally did it. It was a bit hard to open, but I'm guessing it is probably because it is metal, and metal varies depending on the temperature. Today is really hot in Sydney, and perhaps the metal has expanded. That's why I was struggling to open this. In any case, so this is it. What we have here is basically the same deck, apart from the tin, but it is basically the same deck that we used to. So we have the guidebook, and obviously it is a mini guidebook. But I believe in most cases, and this is also part of my prediction, we will see that the number of words, at least, dedicated for each and every card, and perhaps also the introduction, and whether there were spreads, custom spreads or not, they will probably make the same kind of choice for the mini editions. This is basically giving you the same amount of information that we're used to. So we're not going to miss out if we, when looking at these decks and deciding whether we want to go for the full size or the mini size, even if we go for the mini size, we will not miss out on any kind of information, at least when it comes to the words on the guidebook. Then let's have a look at the cards. Now, one thing to notice, and I think it is rather important, is that because of the smaller size, what we will find is that if they go for the standard 330 grams thickness for these cards, we will find them a little bit more sturdy, which is fine by me, to be honest. And I actually really like the bounce factor in these cards, so I'm totally for it. This is kind of, physics. Obviously, a reduced surface with the same thickness will feel more sturdy, which is something that I actually appreciate because it means that I can be rough with the deck. I can use it as much as I want. And that is basically the whole deal about a mini deck, is that you can actually put it in your purse. Although, let me tell you, for someone with a large collection, a mini deck is actually really welcome because it will give me the possibility to store approximately two decks in the same space occupied by one full-size tarot deck or oracle deck. When it comes to the aesthetics, I think that it's really well done. I feel that I'm not missing out on anything related to the images. When I look at the composition, it feels like it's very proportionate. So we've got a main character, or in this case, there are animals, but they're still main characters on the center of the cards. And then we have all of these symbols. For example, we can see here musical notes coming out of the trumpet. Is it a trumpet? I don't know. We can have the same access to the informational elements of the card, the number at the top, for example, the title at the bottom, and then the message at the bottom. And this is exactly the same, I believe. I don't have the full size to compare it, but I did do some research and I compared a few cards. For what I could see in a walkthrough on YouTube, these are exactly the same. So we're not missing out on basically anything. The only thing is that this is precisely the same deck as the full size we're so used to, but in a smaller size. And I believe that when it comes to the proportions, they also kept it really good. So it's not something that perhaps we could probably see the full size of the wings on this, looks like a scarab to me. Yes, a scarab beetle. So perhaps in the fuller size, we could see all the size of all the wings, let's say on the sides here. And we cannot because they are capped in this card, but it doesn't necessarily bother me. I absolutely get the concept. And, I can see the full spider here, so we're all happy when we see the full spiders. And it doesn't really make me want to purchase the full size, so I'm absolutely fine with doing this kind of process of replacement. And I have to say, though, that in this case, I'm probably going to stick to mass market decks rather than also indie decks. The backs are very similar, if not the same. Again, I believe that probably in the full size we could see the full circle here. But does it bother me that it's cut? No, absolutely not. I'm absolutely fine with that. So when it comes to mass market decks, as I said, to me, it's a win-win situation. It saves space for me. It lets me buy more decks and store them in a way that I can see them and easily access them. And there is also another really big advantage because we're talking about the price, and the price is obviously a cheaper price set than the full size. So if the full size will trade for about, I believe, about $30 Australian for the full size of this deck, this one I actually paid $17 for. So as you can see, it's almost half price. I'm referring to prices as displayed by Amazon, by the way. Obviously, when you go to a different retailer, you will have different prices. But comparing apples to apples, I would say that this is an excellent trend. I'm on board with this trend. Yes, please. Just make more minis and I will buy them, and I will slowly replace the mass market decks that I've got, the full size with the mini size. Let's have a look at the other one, because I still have to understand whether I prefer the tin to the 2 parts boxes. And that one was a little bit hard to open, but that might be circumstantial to this weather in Sydney that is suffocating, basically. This is a 2 parts box, same publisher as I said, Hay House, same creator, Colette Baron Reid, Wisdom of the Oracle Pocket Divination cards. So this one opens very easily, as you can see. And it still has the pocket guidebook, and when it comes to the meaning of the cards, it looks like it's got 3 full pages or almost full pages for each and every card, which means, to my knowledge, that it gives you the same amount of information, the same amount of words. Perhaps they don't display some suggested spread. I don't necessarily know whether there were suggested spreads for this at the beginning or at the back of the guidebook. But it doesn't really matter. I mean, when it comes to Oracle decks, to be honest with you, I'm probably okay not to have any recommended spread because I very rarely use a deck for a full spread. I definitely use Oracle decks like this one, for example, as the last card for a spread used with tarot decks. So if I have a 4-prompt spread, in that case, I will pull 3 cards from a tarot deck, and then the last card, the 4th card, so the 4th prompt, I would definitely use an Oracle deck for that. So it depends on how you use your Oracle decks, of course, but I personally do not need to have a full spread for my Oracle decks. Now, this is actually quite different because, as you can see, if I do like that, this is a very glossy cardstock. This is a very glossy finish. When it comes to the backs, these backs are the same as the full-size deck. I don't recall seeing such wide white borders when it comes to the full-size Oracle. But when it comes to the images, it looks like we have the same access to the images. When it comes to the informational parts of the card, we also have access to the number at the top here and the, let's say, the keyword, or sometimes more than one, but sometimes titles, keywords. It's a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to this deck because it does show you sometimes a couple of words to create a message, unfinished symphony, but it could also be a keyword. So a change in the wind is still a message, fork in the road, truth be told, a message in a bottle, all that glitters, the fates. Serendipity is more like a keyword, for example. Flexible is more like a keyword. Imagine is a keyword. Clean it up is more like a message. But I do believe that they correspond 100% to what we were used to see in the full size. I feel though that when it comes to the colors, it feels like these are just a touch softer colors than the full size. I don't know whether that is the case or not. I believe that this deck originally was from a few years ago, and perhaps that was more like the way to produce these decks a few years ago. Not much of a saturation, something that gives you very cosmic vibes, very soft vibes, which is very nice, I have to say. So this is one of my most successful Oracle decks from a few years ago. Ever since then, I feel like I've actually branched out and bought different kind of decks that were actually more, let's say, less intuitive, more direct, and also that kind of directness was due to probably an increase in saturation in the colors or images that were probably sharper. But when it comes to a card like this, No Place Like Home, it still resonates a lot with me, and it still finds its way to my heart. And it's one of the cards that I actually prefer in these types of Oracle decks because it's not just intuitive, it's very communicative, but it's also very emotional for me. So I would say that this is also a very good result, a very good product. I believe that this one may have been $19 Australian, but in any case, very cheap compared to the full size. So therefore affordable. I like it. I think it's a win-win. And as I said, this is my first prediction for Tarot and Oracle trends for 2025. It will definitely be about releasing mini versions, whether they call them pocket or mini, it doesn't matter, but mini versions of full-size, very successful decks that were published before. But now let's talk about my second prediction for Tarot and Oracle decks trends in 2025. And this is, let's say, a trend that we've seen since probably a few years ago, but it was necessarily focusing on a very small amount of decks. Now it's taking a hold of the industry, and I'm referring to the tendency to release a mass market version of a very successful indie deck. So in this case, what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to compare these two decks because we're talking about the Orion's Animal Tarot by Ambison, and I have the mini edition of the indie deck as well, and the pocket or mini edition of the mass market deck in here for you to see the differences. Now, when it comes to the well, the tin or the box that we're looking at, I believe that we'll look into economical versions of the boxes that came out of when they came out indie. In this case, it's a tin compared to a wraparound magnetic closure kind of box. I honestly have to say this is a very nice deck, and I really loved the indie edition. But when I got a hold of this edition, so the mass market one, I actually really prefer it. And let me tell you why. So first of all, when we open these two, we will notice that the mass market edition actually has a guidebook, whereas the indie edition of the mini deck did not come with the guidebook. And having said that, I know that there is a magnificent guidebook that you would have to purchase aside for the indie edition, but then again, I do prefer to have my guidebook together with the deck. And when you can actually do that with the minimum, let's say, amount of space, like in this case, we're not looking at a massive difference in thickness between these two decks, as you can see. And it's also because this one, obviously being a tin, it does come with a lead. Now, I also do prefer the fact that the lead of this rock pool deck is actually different from the ones we've just seen from Hay House, because this one here has hinges on the back. So I will, knowing myself, I'm very relieved, because that means that I will not lose the lead. And it also, you know, if it comes loose, but it doesn't look like it's coming loose anyway. It does have or present a little bit of resistance when you close it like that. So that makes me happy. And it's also because, as I said, when we look at the two decks side by side, now I believe that this one is still in order, this one isn't, because obviously I have been using that for readings. We will see that there are slight differences. So for example, this one, the mass market edition, is slightly thicker. As you can see, you got a little bit of you know, difference in the size of the two decks. When it comes to the front of the cards and the backs, well, the backs are very similar. This, I believe, is the same design we have seen on the full-size tarot deck when Rockpool picked it up for the first time, releasing in mass market. And this is what we used to, or at least what we used to if we have the indie edition of this deck. I don't mind either one. I like both of them. I don't have any preference. When it comes to the front, we will see when it comes to the color saturation and the white balance on the cards. I would say that we're looking at two very, very similar products. Now, in size, when it comes to the size, we will see that the indie edition is slightly smaller. I would say, I don't know if you can tell because it is both dark colors, but it is narrow and also shorter, but it's absolutely fine. And this just means that, for example, this is a more standard mini, or at least what we're now used to consider as a standard when it comes to the mini decks. And by being it slightly smaller, we actually have more access to the cards. The edging or gilding in these two decks. Now, this one is very famous because it was one of the very first one that was using a dull silver in a holographic way. This one is also a dull silver, and I believe that sometimes when it catches the light, you can actually see that there is a little bit of a holographic reflection there. You can probably see it like this, but it's not as pronounced as this deck. Ironically, when I look through the lens of the camera, it looks almost like this one doesn't have any holographic reflection, and this one does. But in any case, they were supposed to be both of them holographic. It's very nice, I would say. This one looks a little bit more high quality than this one, but I absolutely do not mind that. But the fact that we have, you know, for me, it was a win. They had me when I read that it came with a guidebook, because honestly, I really prefer to have the guidebook, even if it's a smaller one or if the amount of words of information is slightly smaller. in comparison to the full size, I don't really mind. And this one actually comes with a few spreads as a suggestion as well, which I always appreciate. As I said, I do appreciate it more on a tarot deck rather than an oracle deck. And let's just having a look at a few cards, side by side. It does look like we're looking at the same amount of saturation in the colors. We're looking at the same type of brightness and white balance. Admittedly, this is, when it comes to the brightness, I would have preferred in maybe Rockpool to just tweak the brightness towards the higher level just a little bit, because they do look like kind of darker kind of cards. And on the one hand, yes, I do recognize that I would have probably benefited from a lighter kind of version, but at the end of the day, this was the way in which Ambison, which is a creator from Melbourne, by the way, has conceived the deck and created it, and that's the way it's meant to be seen. I really, really like this deck. It's amazing. It reads really well. I actually do like the association between the animals chosen to represent the specific cards and the meaning of the cards. And so it is a staple deck in my collection. So far, I used the indie edition, but I honestly see no reason why, other than collectible item. If you think that obviously this edition, the indie edition of this deck, is a collectible item, then in that case I will never rehome it. But I don't really look at it that way. I think that in this case, yes, it's an indie edition and now it's out of print, but it has been reprinted mass market. And I think that Rockpool has done a fantastic job in the reprinting. And so I'm probably going to end up rehoming the indie edition, which is really, everyone clutching their pearls and gasping. But to me, it's also a matter of being practical, and it's a lot easier when I have the guidebook in the tin can. So this is definitely my second prediction for 2025 when it comes to tarot and oracle decks trends. So mass market publishers picking up indie decks and releasing them and making them accessible to everyone. By the way, in my latest video, I was actually comparing a few decks to the prices of everyday items in our lives here in Sydney. And this one was the deck that I've chosen for a comparison for the lower end of a mass market decks, because this one actually costed me only $16 Australian, which is approximately 10 or 11 US dollars, depending on the currency. And I honestly think that for $16, you get the full deck. It's a very nice production. It is a tin can, it's sturdy, I can put it in my bag. And I also have the guidebook, so this is totally a win for me. And now for the third prediction for the Tarot and Oracle decks trends for 2025. And this is not just a prediction, it's actually a wishful thinking, or that I really want for it to come true. I really hope that this will come true. And it's for Insight Edition to finally redeem themselves by putting a little bit more effort into the production of the minor suits of a tarot deck. Now, we all know Insight Edition because they always come out with the tarot decks that we secretly always wanted. I always wanted a Stranger Things tarot deck. I always wanted a Ghostbuster tarot deck, or a Buffy the Vampire Slayer tarot deck, or a Nightmare Before Christmas tarot deck, and you name it. Actually, I also want, and if anyone from Insight Edition is listening, can you please come up with a John Wick tarot deck? Please, pretty please. I would definitely buy it, and I wouldn't even mind for the minors to be peepish, although, no, I'm probably lying. I do want to see all of the characters in the minors as well. In any case, this is my third prediction for the year, and it's about Insight Edition to finally release decks that actually make sense within the tarot community, not just for tarot collectors and these kind of let's say niche decks or fandom decks aficionados, but also for tarot readers, because let's face it, when we as tarot readers look for a tarot deck that we want to use, we don't normally use Insight Edition decks because the minors are really lazy. let's have a look at the Beetlejuice Tarot, because I believe that this, together with probably another couple of decks that are in the making for now, could represent a new trend taken by Insight Edition, because I have seen the walkthrough on Robin's channel, Robin from Robin's Reflection, and I think that this deck is actually kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say too much, but it feels like they finally understood that tarot collectors and tarot readers alike, we actually want to see something scenic and fully scenic and illustrated in the minors. So let's have a look. This is obviously referred to Beetlejuice the movie. I don't think that it's based on the second movie of the sequel, let's say. I think that everything is based on the first movie, because it looks like a younger version of Winona Ryder. So I'm perfectly fine with that. I really love the inside of the box. I know someone warned me about this. So instead of an actual guidebook, as we can see here, we got this cutout. What's it called? What's the name for this? So it looks very cumbersome. It looks very difficult to open. I'm actually really struggling. It's not even cut out very well. So it's kind of, I have to rip it open. And it looks like it's not practical at all. But it does look like it gives you, I don't know if I can actually maneuver it in such a way that you can see this, but it actually shows you a little bit of writing for each and every card. So the upright and the reverse position for the meaning of the cards, and then we turn it around, and when it comes to the majors, we actually have an image for the majors as well. I'm not entirely happy about this. I honestly don't think that this is very practical. I think that there will be a lot of people thinking that it is too much effort to just open this thing in order to use it, and that will drive people away. So I'm not happy about this, but I hope that it's just a one-off. Maybe there's a reason, maybe because we were looking, I believe, at a map in the first movie of Beetlejuice. Maybe there's something related to that. I'm not entirely sure. But I really hope that they return to the guidebooks, because to be honest, they were not, considering the fact that we did have lazy minors, the guidebooks of Insight Edition decks were actually well made. So I really hope that they will go back to that. When it comes to the deck, here it is, very beautiful insides of the box, as I said. And let's have a look at the cards. So let me just zoom back in because we want to see them properly. And by the way, I have to say something. So I think I found a way to film these videos, because lately my cat has not been well, and she was kind of crying because she lost the sense of hearing. And so if she doesn't see me, she cannot hear me, and she starts crying. But now I found a way. I'm actually filming with her next to me. So let's see how this is going. So we've got the majors, but we never had any problems with the majors now, did we? The majors were always, yes, this is definitely the first movie. The majors were always well done. They were scenic. They were actually kind of cool. And I really think the Hermit. And I really think that they found a way to convey the meaning of the cards by choosing the right scenes or the right characters from the movies that were, or the TV shows from the decks, obviously. And that was really well done. I really like this. The moon with the photo of the two ghosts, and the mother for the son, the judgment card. That's really cool. The world. And now we're gonna have a look in a second to the minors, but I have to say I love these bags. Look at them, they are so cool. Really, really love these bags. Okay, let's have a look. They do seem to start with the court cards, which is absolutely fine. So we got the King of Wands, we got the Queen of Wands, and the Knight of Wands, which implies movement. I like that. The Page of Wands, okay. And then it starts from the Aces. Ace of Wands, the Two of Wands with Winona Ryder and the handbook for the recently deceased. The Three of Wands with the number at the office, at the checkout, let's say, to to receive some information whenever someone passes through to the next world. They have to queue up. I found that extremely hilarious because it reminds me so much of bureaucracy in pretty much any country. Okay, so I need to show you this, just to show you this here. This is my cat's paw. I love that she's here and she's reaching out and she's basically giving her own contribution to this video. That's okay, Missy. It's fine. Okay, zooming back in to the cards. So I'm really liking the Four of Wands with the sense of family, and the Five of Wands with the competition. I like that. The Six of Wands with figuring out the book. So the sense of, being crowned for being able to figure it out. The Seven of Wands with the construction. This is the remodeling of the house, because obviously the mother is a let's say she's really artistic, she's an artist, so she looked into rehoming the house, and she did that in spite of a number of things that were going against her. So I can see the sticking up to your guns. The Eight of Wands, the Nine of Wands when they designed the portal, and the Ten of Wands. And then we're moving on to the Suit of Cups, the King of Cups, and the Queen of Cups. The Knight of Cups, yes, I like this. The Page, and then the Ace. These are definitely scenic. That's the Four of Cups, the Five of Cups. These are, I'm liking these cards so far. Really happy with them. This is really telling me that we may hope for a redemption of Insight Edition in 2025. Hopefully they'll also come out with a John Wick deck. As I said, that will be making me very happy. And we got the Ace of Swords, the Two of Swords, the Three of Swords with the heartbreak, but not showing, let's say, in such a way that we see the heart burst by the swords. The Four of Swords for sure. I am done with the Five of Swords. Fantastic. I love this. The Six of Swords when they transition. And the Seven of Swords. 8. Oh, fantastic. Wow, I really love this deck. And then we're moving on to the Suit of Pentacles. So I'm not going to show you all of the cards, but I have the feeling, so far at least it's been confirmed, that we are definitely looking at a fully scenic deck. I'm extremely excited with what this might mean for future decks from Insight Edition, because I actually really appreciate movies. I'm a movie buff. I also love TV shows. I watch a lot of content on TV and at the movies, and there are some movies that are actually my favorites. And even though they're not my favorites, they really mean something to me. And so if Insight Edition continues to produce decks, fandom decks, I'm actually very excited to see which direction they're going to take for 2025. And I really hope that they listen to us, because we've been screaming off the top of our lungs to Insight Edition for many years to please, please, please make the minors scenic. And they did that in the Beetlejuice deck, so I'm very happy about that. And this is my third prediction for 2025. My fourth prediction is actually based on the fact that 2025 is the year of the Hermit. And when it comes to the Hermit, for me, it means two things. One thing is about understanding the importance of self-care. So there'll be a lot of us reflecting on how to get back to taking care of ourselves. And I'm thinking both when it comes to the mind and the soul, because obviously they go hand in hand and they're extremely important one to the other. But also it will be a year in which there'll be a lot of what I call cognitive dissonance, and referring to the fact that there'll be a lot of different truth. So the Hermit represents the person or the part of the Fool in the Fool's journey where the protagonist understands that their own truth may not necessarily be a universal truth, and they need to take a step back from reality and from society in order to understand what lies at their core self. When we look at that and we reflect and we mirror that into nowadays society, we do see that there's a lot of opinions going around. There's a lot of not necessarily true news going around. There's a lot of misinformation going around, but there's also a lot of positions, and these positions do not necessarily vibe with our own. And so we will find ourselves being confronted more often than in other years with the possibility to either change our mind if after a period of research we will find that we were wrong and join somebody else's opinion, or stick to our guns and perhaps sleep in a position of the 7 of Wands, or even worse, the 9 of Wands, in which we're really called to be resilient and understand that these too shall pass. So this is something that is related to the year of the Hermit for 2025, and I believe that more like tarot decks, there'll be an increase in production and releases of oracle decks. So I have actually bought this deck. This is the Daydreams and Moonbeams, or rather the Oracle of Daydreams and Moonbeams by Tess Whitehurst. The artwork is by Jessica von Braun. Wisdom and guidance from fairy tales, fantasy, and folklore. So fairy tale, fantasy, and folklore will definitely be something that, even though it has been, let's say, focusing on tarot decks releases and up until now, there will be more and more oracle decks in general, but even more oracle decks referring to legends, fairy tales, and something like that. And I, for one, really appreciate that. I'm all for it. I really do love a good book of fairy tales. I used to have this really cherished memory about my dad putting me to sleep when I was little and just telling me stories about pirates, because that was my favorite. Pirate stories were really my jam when I was little, and anything related to adventure. But I also really appreciate, the classic stories, the classic fairy tales, the Andersen fairy tales, the Grimm fairy tales. And I really love the gothic ones or the darker ones as well. And so, for example, we've seen that already in the tarot area when we learned about the reprint of the Fairy Tale Tarot by Lisa Hunt, which has been out of print for a number of years. But we should expect more of that, because fairy tales are always a way for the hermit to take a step away from the reality of today's society. So taking refuge in a fairy tale is a very common thing to do. Now, when it comes to us and our relationship with the year of the hermit, I would definitely think that tarot and oracle decks will find a let's say a revival, because those are the instruments that will be used by a lot of people to try and find themselves. And so there will be this kind of revival or renaissance of the tarot and oracle practices. Now, looking at this deck, I actually really, really like it. And I was thinking about pairing it up with my Nicoletta Cecoli tarot deck, because so far I've been pairing my Nicoletta Cecoli with JBG's artwork deck. So, for example, Less Vampires, or the Oracle of Shadow and Light, I think it was called. I don't remember the title. So then there's a number of decks when it comes to Oracle decks, and they're all released, I believe, by Blue Angel. So those are very beautiful because they do present these really big eyes, really big faces, these doll-like characters that pair up well with Nicoletta Cecoli. But when I've seen this one, I felt like this would have been the perfect deck to pair with that tarot deck. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to briefly show you some of the cards from this deck, and then I'm going to do and try out a pairing, because I really think that we may find something that works. As you can see, it is very similar to Nicoletta's artwork, not all of the cards, of course. And this one is a very beautiful deck. It does refer to that fairy tale quality that the Cecoli Tarot has as well. That's one of the other reasons why I really believe that they pair up well together, the Ghost Girl, Heartache, Jack and Jill. So I'm just thinking that when it comes to the guidebook, we'll probably be given enough information about the character depicted on the card. So let's have a look first. Number 23, This is the Ozma of Oz. And what it says, it's high time to be who you really are. Proudly embody your identity and authority. Be kind, courageous, and fair as you live your beauty and claim your destiny. An immortal fairy queen and the rightful ruler of the land of Oz, Ozma lived out her childhood under an enchantment that caused her to believe she was a human boy named Tip. When Glinda counteracts the deceptive magic and Ozma's native identity is restored, she is liberated to fulfill her much-needed role as a wise and benevolent queen. Okay, so it does give you a little bit of the story behind the character depicted on the card. And then it refers to the possibility to read that card as a message. This could be a message to recognize your identity in another way. It could be that you believe you are a follower or a worker bee when you are in fact a natural leader or visionary. Okay, so it's really interesting. I'm really going to love delving into the book because obviously it's not possible to know all of these characters from all of these fairy tales and legends. Peter Pan, I know, of course, and the Queen of Hearts and Rapunzel. Little Red Riding Hood and the Wolf, for example, wrote down. Shadow Enchantment, Singing in the Rain. That's such a beautiful card. I really love the aesthetics of this deck, and I really appreciate the fact that there is a slightly different kind of layout, as you can see. So the title is bigger than what we normally would see in an Oracle deck, but I'm absolutely fine with that. The Wicked Witch, of course, and Bat Maiden. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to shuffle this deck, and then we're going to try out a pairing with the Nicoletta Cecoli Tarot. Okay, so this is the Nicoletta Cecoli Tarot, and we're just going to have a look at how these two may pair up together. I'm already liking them. Of course, we're looking at differences here. Of course, as I said, the titles are bigger than in any other Oracle deck, so we will probably, that would grab our attention. But once we get used to seeing that, I believe that it actually might work. And I really think that the characters on the cards are very similar, even more so, I would say, than JBG's decks. I'm really liking I'm really liking the vibes of these two together. The color palette is also very soft, or at least the technique is very soft. Wow. Dream Seeker between the Three of Swords and the Knight of Wands. Such a beautiful pair. I really think that it resonates, and not just for me, but objectively, at least when it comes to the aesthetics of these. We're looking at two decks that really want to be together. And wow. Yes, definitely. That gives me the goosebump. Such an amazing vibe of these two together. Really, really enjoying this. I cannot wait. Honestly, I cannot wait to work with these two together. I was meant to put back the Nicoletta Cecoli into the rotation for the month of February, because the month of February is let's say my birthday month, and I always try and work on myself. It's almost as if it were a new beginning of the year, but it's my birth year, so it's slightly different. And wow. Do you see it? Let me know what you think in the comments below, because I must not be the only one that thinks that these two decks are actually made for each other. It is absolutely amazing the way in which the characters look so similar in these cards. And I really, really love the vibes. I think that when it comes to the energies, we are more or less in the same space. There is more diversity in the Oracle deck, which I appreciate. Wow, that's amazing. Look at that. Really, absolutely gorgeous pairing. I'm very happy about having found this Oracle deck, and I really like it. And by the way, the cardstock is amazing. It's got a very soft feel to it. Did I say who the publisher is? I think I forgot to mention, but it's Blue Angel. Yeah, it's Blue Angel. So it is a relatively new deck from Blue Angels, because honestly, I haven't seen it around much. But if you have the Nicoletta Ceccoli tarot, and I know that the Blue Angels deck come out a couple of months after Australia when it comes to the rest of the world, but you may put it in your wish list. This is an absolutely amazing deck. And that was my fourth prediction for Tarot and Oracle Trends for 2025. It will be a lot more oracles released because it's the year of the Hermit, and there will be this demand for self-care. And my fifth and final prediction for Tarot and Oracle Trends to watch out for in 2025 is related to this deck. Now, this is the Joker Tarot, and the illustrator is Corrado Roy, who you might know by now is one of my favorite graphic illustrators and graphic artists of all times. He's Italian. He was one of the graphic illustrators of Dylan Dog magazines, published by Bonelli Editore. Now, this is a Lo Scarabeo deck, as you can see from here. However, this was a Kickstarter campaign. And my prediction is that we will see more mass market publishers jumping on the Kickstarter wagon, simply because I believe that they actually feel like it is an excellent way to introduce a deck into the market and make sure that it does have a lot of distribution. And it will also give them the possibility, let's say, to probably make more profits. Now, this one, when it came out, the Kickstarter, I've chosen just the reward of this deck here. And there were possibilities to add up a mini deck or a black and white deck or a really big box, let's say. With the deck inside. So there were different possibilities for backers. I chose only this one simply because I just needed this deck, and in my mind it was all about the illustrations, and it wasn't necessarily due to the deluxe edition or stuff like that. So I was pretty happy with this one. Now, this is a very dark deck, and this is not part of my prediction for 2025. As a matter of fact, I believe that even though there will still be a steady publication of darker decks, we will actually look more and more into lighter, kind of softer, gentler decks because of the year of the Hermit. But when it comes to the Kickstarter prediction, I believe that we'll be flooded even more by Kickstarter campaigns, even more than 2024. 2024 actually had an increase in, I believe, 25% when it comes to, it's very difficult to draw the numbers because sometimes you will include playing cards as a tarot. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they release an oracle deck that is by all means an oracle deck, but it doesn't fall into that category simply because it's called a game or something like that. So there's a number of factors to take into consideration when looking at these numbers. But generally speaking, I believe that the figure of 25% increase into the prior year releases is actually a good guess. So there will be even more Tarot and Oracle decks, but when it comes to my prediction, I really think that there will be other, well, Lo Scarabeo is already doing it. It's already been launching a Kickstarter campaign with Fabio Listrani's Goetia and Notoria, and with Corrado Roy's The Joker Tarot. Now there's a new one, the Franzetti Tarot. Franzetti is another Italian illustrator. It's a very interesting deck, just not my taste, so I will not be backing that one. But I really appreciate the fact that they're also opting for that. So I believe that that gives a publisher, like a mass market publisher like Lo Scarabeo, the possibility to do something new and innovative and something that will really pique the interest of the tarot collectors community, because as we've seen, these products have really high value. When it comes to the prices, I have to be honest with you, I'm not entirely happy because this was a bit of a failure when it comes to the prices of the shipping, because at the beginning they were looking into $80 to ship from the printer. So I believe they came from Germany to Australia, and everyone complained about that. It was not just Australia, but even the cost to ship to the US were really, really high. So after they complained, they opted for a different option for shipping cost, and I only spent $45, which is almost half as much as I was looking into at the beginning. So I'm quite happy with the new company they've chosen to use for fulfillment. I hope that they'll use them again, because this deck came in about 3 weeks, which is what I'm used to in any case. So these were my 5 predictions for tarot and oracle decks trends to watch out for in 2025. But I've been very interested to know what you guys think about 2025. Let me know in the comments below what you think is going to happen, or even what you hope is going to happen, because that's something very interesting as well. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.